Hey, thank you so much for tuning in to Instrumental Intel. I am your host, music producer Chick with Beats, and I'm glad that you're here with me. Today's special episode is Inside the Studio, Insights from the Producer's Perspective. And this is just part one, highlighting some conversations that I've had with producers Sandstorm McDowell and the orchestra. So I'm excited to be bringing this episode to you. Before I go ahead and get started, I gotta give a shout out to my home station, Grander Radio, out of Grand Rapids, Michigan. And I'm gonna take a quick pause for the cause and then we'll dive right in. Hey, I'm a Chick with Beats, multi-genre music producer and strategist to indie artists and labels. Visit chickwithbeats.com for resources for artists and instrumentals in various genres available for songs, vlogs, blogs, podcasts, themes, TV, film, commercials, and more. Once again, that's chickwithbeats.com. That's ACHICKWITBEATZ.com. Let's make something happen.
Thank you so much for tuning in to Instrumental Intel. I am your host, music producer, Chick with Beats, and I'm excited, thrilled, and delighted to announce that I have in the virtual building with me today, Sandstorm. I mean, he's a creator of many talents. It's even hard to kind of break down everything that you do. It'd probably be easier to say what you don't do, but if you could, give the people a little bit of background as to who you are and how you started your music journey.
All right. Name is Sandstorm McDowell. First off, I want to say it's an honor to be on here to join with you and just talk music. I feel like we do this all the time.
Yes. Absolutely.
Yeah. So it's so my background pretty much I do anything and everything in music. What catches my ear. I started off. Well, let me take it back even further. My musical, the first time I really experienced music, actually was through my mom, and she kind of cultivated me in a way where I really loved orchestrated and classical music. I didn't know that there was anything outside of that, except for we live in Kalamazoo, and back then, in the early '90s, we didn't have like 1560 at the time, so it was really just kind of like rock and roll and all that other stuff that I wasn't really into. So I really stuck with classical music and thought that was amazing. It wasn't until I was about 6 or 7, a mutual friend of ours, my cousin, actually we were on a trip. It was for our church. We were on a trip to, I believe, Cedar Point. And he was listening to music. I was listening to music. He's like, "Hey, you want to listen to what I got real quick?" And I was like, "Yeah." I was like, "You can listen to what I have." So I was banging some Tchaikovsky. I remember this like it was yesterday. I was banging some Tchaikovsky, and he hands me his, and like it was Busta Rhymes, Woo-Ha, and that like blew I was like, what is this? Like, I've never heard anything like this. Like, these guys are saying words, he's rapping fast and everything, Woo-Ha, and I'm like the music and the melody, and I'm like, I've never heard anything, and he's looking at me like, yeah, you like that, don't you?
Why can I envision that look?
So fast forwarding, when I turned 13, between those two times, like I absolutely fell in love with music, tried to figure out all the different types of styles of music and everything. My parents were both really into like the 80s and the 70s and stuff, so I got a lot of their inspiration into like the thoughts and the mindset of like how music should go and how it plays. When I turned 13, I remember this like it was yesterday too. I was at my dad's house, and my nephew was living with him at the time, and he's downstairs and he's just cranking on stuff. Just I can hear the keyboard to the computer just clack 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 clack. I'm like, man, what is he doing down there? And I go down there, and he's on a computer program, and he's just making music. And I'm like, what is this? And he's like, bro, it's called Fruity Loops. And I'm like, are you making like your own music on that? And he's like, yeah. I was like, where did you get this stuff from? He's like, well, actually, it came in a CD, a demo version came in a CD and a Fruity Loops box. And I was like, what? Like, how come I've never gotten this? And that really started the day of like me getting into music. And just like everybody when they start making beats or whatever, they're terrible.
Yes.
They're some of the worst things that you go back now and you're like real cringe about it. But when you first started, like you had so much pride in it. Like you wanted to show like, look what I did. I made these beats, and that kind of inspired trying to come up with like, okay, I really want to do this. What is my name going to be? Like it can't just be a regular name because no rapper or producer uses regular names like that unless they're really, really popular like that, unless they got like a cool name. So I was like, so I started off, and originally it wasn't Sandstorm. I started off with DJ Sandbox. And I thought, okay, like I'm like a kid playing in the sand, playing in the sandbox with the melodies and stuff like that. So like I really like doing this. But as I grew into the making of beats and producing, I was like, the more mature my music sounds, like the more mature I feel like my name has to. So that transition from being Sandbox eventually became Sandstorm. And yeah, I've been making beats ever since I was 13.
Wow, that's incredible. And, very dope name, by the way. I understand what you mean about the growth. And yeah, you can actually kind of hear it in the transition of the name itself.
Yeah, so, appreciate it.
Yeah, but to have been doing it at such an early age, that's really impressive. I know you had mentioned Busta Rhymes and, of course, your cousin, Orchestra. Who are some of your other, I guess, big musical influences, like whether it be other producers or...
Oh man, there's like, so as I've grown into music, I've understood that there's like certain people or like certain points in your life where you like kind of gravitate towards certain things that like work as inspiration. So my cousin, Mr. Wonderful, he was making music before I was making music. So to even hear him, it was just like, oh my gosh. So during that earlier time, and then my nephew, who goes by Cassius, was a huge inspiration. Bus was the whole reason why I like wanted to rap on top of that. And this was like during the time where like most people who are in the game, either they were rappers or they were producers. Like you didn't really have too many of those really kind of mixing in like that. And if you did, they weren't really like in your face like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So when Kanye came out during that time and he was rapping and producing, I'm like, you can do that? Like you can have two jobs at once and do what you like. So he was a big influence early on. Just Blaze, because of the way that he kind of mixed up his samples. One of the popular ones is groups, is the Heatmakers. With Cameron and Jewels. They really worked with the orchestra stuff. So like I never wanted to really copy their style, but just to like get an ear for like, how would you kind of go about turning this orchestra music into a hip hop joint or, rocking in that way. My biggest inspiration is, there's two of them. And I will say this to this day. There are two GOATs. There are two GOATs of the game. And everybody's great. Don't get me wrong. Dre is great. J Dilla, like there's greats out there. Alchemist is fire. But there's two people, well, a group and a person I'm like, man, like they changed the game in such a way. Is the Neptunes, not just Pharrell,
Mm,
but the Neptunes as a group, they completely changed the game from how they started to where they got to when even till now.
yeah.
And Timbaland, like those, but to this day, like when I listen to One in a Million and people are listening to me, I'm like, the craziest thing is this man took a whole cricket sample and made hi-hats off of that. And people are like, what? And you're like, yeah, listen to that.
Yeah.
Those are crickets. And I'm like, dang, those are crickets. And he got the airplanes. That is an airplane. Like the stuff that he would come up with, both of them that would come up with that were like, I guess like nerdish, like
Yeah.
the nerdy style of trying to do something a little quirky with your beats really was something that I gravitated because I and myself am really nerdy into making music too. So
I almost feel like you kind of have to be. There's a lot of technical stuff involved in it as
yes,
well.
yes,
Not just the feeling, but like to actually carry it out and execute it.
yes.
Yeah, so I'm a fellow nerd or weirdo too, so I get what you mean by that.
Yeah. And I think that's wild because when you think about every so I'll say this first. There's a difference between a person who makes beats and a producer.
Hmm.
A person who makes beats typically will only stick to their genre or what they know. They don't like to expand out any further than that because that takes experimentation. And sometimes either you can get lost in that experimentation or you can learn something that you never did. But usually people who make beats stay in that one realm.
Yeah.
Producers are nerds, like like straight through and through. It doesn't really, the background of it doesn't really have to translate to anything like nerddom, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But everybody has their own piece. So, even looking at, Pharrell and Chad are perfect examples.
Hmm.
Like they have a lot of the Star Trek, that was their whole thing. The Star Trek background, the Star Wars, like video game, like all of that was kind of, you could see it pour through into their music, and it was almost, and I guess I can speak, and I'm sure this is the same with you too, is like the experiences and the things that you go through, you want to have them come across in a melodic way.
Mm.
So where a rapper will talk about stuff that they've been, well, most of them back in the real rappers back in the
Right,
day
right.
would talk about stuff that they've experienced or that they've witnessed or went through. We do it in the same way, just in a musical sense.
Mm. Mm. Yeah. I never thought about it like that, but you're right. Wow. So yeah, okay. Well, speaking of that, what does your creative process look like when you get ready to, sit down and produce?
Oh man, so I take two forms. Form one and form two, if you will. So form one, if we're talking about something from scratch, like I have nothing in mind, I didn't come up with anything that was like floating through my head. Um, like I said, I'm a nerd, so like most of my inspirations will come through experiences of video games that I've played.
Mm.
So whether it's like a serious tone game or like a horror game or a racing game, like whatever I just got done playing or whatever is my passion and playing in video games since, this is where my mindset is going. So it's almost like creating a soundtrack that I created myself for a game.
Mm.
Um, and so when I step in, it's like, okay, I always do drums last. But percussion usually becomes before like the actual drum piece for me.
Okay.
Um, I'll think of like, okay, what's like one of the most like dopest, exciting moments that I had in a video game? Okay, that's it right there. That's what I want to convey because I want somebody to see like when they sit down.
Mm.
Usually, if I'll say this on the side. Usually, if somebody is listening to your beats as a producer, they always try and attach it to a rapper that they either know or, whether it's now or old school. So me, naturally, I don't think of like, okay, like who would be dope for this moment in time in this video game. It's more like, okay, how does this melody vibe with what I'm going through at this point in time? And so when I have the melody laid out, everything's established, I do it like a game of Tetris. So like, say let's think of an easy one, a Grand Theft Auto, for everybody that can understand the popular video game Grand Theft Auto, and I'm walking down the street and my guy is kind of, he's kind of got that rock in him, like, okay, he's got a little bit of rhythm to him. What city does this take place in? Okay, this is on the West Coast, so he's gonna need that boom to him, like a good like heavy vibe to just kind of cater to his walk. Now starts the Tetris piece. Okay, I got the main lead part. Okay, that sounds good. Now what's going to be in the background of that that's going to kind of mesh well with the melody? Okay, I got that. Now, is there anything else that I could put in here, sneak in here on you that you like you hear, but you don't really hear it because you're too busy listening to like the melody or the lead part? Okay, I got that. Now it's time to slide in the hats to give you a little feeling. Okay, now you got your walk in you. Okay, but now you want that heavy, just that one-time kick, that boom, and so that's really how I go about the process. But that's only one side. Now the other side is completely different, and that is when I already have a melody or a beat in mind. So another thing about producers, which I love, because I know a Chick with Beats does this too. Like we've vibed before, so
Yes.
I know, and Mr. Wonderful has done it. Every producer in the past that I've been around does it. You catch a melody, whether it was from an outside source or somewhere in your head, and you like, yeah, I got that. And you rewind it in your head. You already added the beat. Like you're like, yeah, ooh, that would be fire. Like, and you could see it in a producer's face because they get that like, I'm thinking about life moment, like, oh, yeah, I'll be right back,
Yeah.
So moving into that spot, it's a faster process, but it's a faster process with more mistakes. And the reason why I say that is because originally when you have it in your head, like, oh, the melody may have sounded good with the piano, and you're like when you actually transition and put it in with the piano, sometimes you're like, nah, it wasn't a piano. That's not what I was thinking. Like I thought it was that way, but it don't sound like how I actually want it. So then you move to another sound, and then you're like, nah, that's not what I was thinking either. So you're like, you know what? All right, let me just leave this here. Let me move on to the other pieces that I know. If I can create the shape of it, then I can really work out the details of how this is supposed to go. And sometimes when you get the shape, you like, dang, I didn't like that before. It's actually dope now. That's exactly what I was thinking. Other times you're like, ooh, okay, now that I got this, now maybe it was just if I just turn this and tweak this, add a little reverb. Okay, yep, that's what I was thinking it was going to be. So yeah, they're two different attacks, two different styles. I say with the second style, I tend not to try and go outside the box of what I was thinking. as opposed to the first style. I'll try something way different, but in trying something way different, most of the time it works out on the first style, where on the second style, I'm trying to get what I envision. So it has a lot more mistakes to it.
Yeah, I feel that. First of all, let me say that First Way is incredibly dope. And yeah, what a way to, kind of compose, like you said, the soundtrack, if you will. That's really dope. And
Yeah.
to be able to draw inspiration like that from video games is just phenomenal. And also with the Second Way, I know that there's been a few times to where something might pop up in my head and I think, oh, like I remember it. So this is kind of like early starting out. And then, it was a few times where I didn't. So now it's like you get those moments where you might be in the car and all of a sudden using notes to record.
Yeah.
Like I know I probably look crazy to anybody next to me at the light. Like, what is she doing? I'm just beatboxing into the phone.
Yes, like I thank technology, because we didn't have that even in like the early 2000s, where you could just simply be like, like it. You would annoy your friends because you'd be like, like all the way until you got home. Like, don't talk to me. Like, okay, but like, are you really gonna do that the whole? Yes, this is gonna be fire, trust me. But I have to remember it, because as soon as I forget it, I'm gonna be mad. And 90% of the time, somebody would, just one question would mess up your whole thought, and you'd be like, dang, now I can't even remember what I did.
Yeah.
So just to have technology at hand and be beatboxing, and I'll even say this, because you can't always beatbox the whole thing that you thought of, you gotta break it into parts, like
yes.
a percussion part.
Yes. It's that. No, it looks crazy to outsiders that don't know what you're doing. Like, what in the world?
Right.
Yes. So, okay. You talked about your background in music and how you kind of developed into production. Can we talk a little bit about how you got to actually writing and performing as well?
Oh man. So wow, this is a funny story. So I started off writing because I had another cousin down in Atlanta. Shout outs to Trey Vito, who's the co-host on my podcast. He was the rapper, and I was the producer, and we've gotten to the point, speaking today, that like every kind of major move that we make, we talk amongst each other about making those moves. And that's just kind of the building of the relationship. But back then I was producer, he was the writer, and eventually he was like, hey, like, I know this, but you don't know this yet. Like, you're making beats, but part of you is actually rapping in your head about how these songs should go, And I was like, dang, like, can he read my mind? Like, and so I started off, and just the same way with beats, I was absolutely terrible. But when I started going into writing, we were actually like making a little movement, and it got my friends together to start doing the same thing. And eventually we had a group. I think it was 16. We had a group known as DRC, the Do Rag Clan. And we had a whole bunch of songs, and it was just it was great. And I realized that I actually liked writing. So I'll say this as a side. When I was the writer, my stage name was Dust Rider, DUSTRYDER. And when I was producer, it was Sandstorm. Eventually I had a sit down with my god brother, and he was like, listen, he's like, it's cool that you want to rap. He's like, but he was like, your logic, I see your logic. Like, if you go further in one, this is what you're going to be named as. And if you go further in the other one, that's what you're going to be named as. He's like, but for simplicity purposes, why not just be one name? And so he was like, but sit down and think about which name you really want to be. And obviously it ended up translating to Sandstorm. But we rapped. We had a whole bunch of people in a rap, and actually my rapping trickled over into church, because at the time I was doing church as well. They had just started a rap ministry, and so I was rapping and producing for church. I've seen like the fruits of that evolve over time, to the point where now it's actually been really amazing, is that I was once the new person, like the new student in the rap ministry. Now for my church, I'm the ministry leader. So now not only do I get to perform and do all that other stuff, which is fun, I actually get to teach other kids about the rap history and how to rap, so they can be able to take those and be able to, minister or rap how they want to, as well as the beats. So the writing, and between that time, the writing has never really stopped. Like, we have producers, we have, we get producer block, like it happens from time to time. But the good thing about being a producer and a writer is that sometimes when you're a producer, you make way more music than you do writing. So then when you start having blocks like that, you're like, okay, well, maybe I can just go back and start writing to some of this stuff. And so as I'm writing, like, I've never really had a block. Yeah, maybe I might write the same line for a song that I wrote, for the last song, but like, what rapper has not done that? What rapper has not taken a Mike Jones line and said it about 50 times on 10 different tracks? So but yeah, just the writing style, for me too, has been really interesting. And I say interesting in this way is because rap continues to evolve, right? How rappers rapped in the early 90s is different than the late 90s, is different than the early 2000s, which is different than the 2010s, and even now, like all the styles are different. You don't, to me, the popular misconception is that you always have to stay with whatever is trending at this point in time, and that's never true. However you rap, and actually I learned this from Method Man. However you rap, regardless of how the beat drops, regardless of how it's laid out, you can still spit fire the same way you spat it 10, 20, 50 years ago. It's about how you convey those words, how you lay down whatever lesson or whatever story or, whatever punchlines you're trying to tell. That's the most important thing. It may not necessarily always be about your cadence and being up to date.
Right. Especially since you mentioned Method Man. I mean, he was dope back in the day, but even listen to his current stuff and how he's challenging himself lyrically, like when he said he was gonna stop using curse words just to step his bars up, and I'm like, that's kind of interesting, because sometimes we do kind of use stuff like that as a crutch, but the fact that he's still growing and challenging himself and just continuously evolving, like, that's a really great point. You brought up a great person to make that point.
I heard him, like, I want to say it was like last week or 2 weeks ago. I didn't realize that he was doing some sort of freestyle battle. And I'm like, what? I'm like, Math doing a freestyle? He must be rapping against somebody old. And like, like nah, he was rapping against a current generation rapper. I couldn't even. It don't even matter who it was because he killed him. But
Right.
like, he was going in, and I'm like, these are Meth bars, but like this guy is snapping right now. Like, and Meth already has always been a snapper, but like the way his cadence went, it was still current. Like it didn't change between how he was rapping back in the day with Wu-Tang to
Yeah.
now. Like it's still the same cadence, but the
Yeah.
words he was conveying in that was like, okay, like that's confirmation. Like you can do what you want to do regardless of the times.
Right. Right. And hip hop is the only genre that age shames. And,
Yes,
like I'm
yes,
really hoping that that changes. Hip hop
yes.
and rap, I should say. But yeah, I mean, with hip hop turning 50 last year, it makes sense that some of these styles have changed and evolved. But just because there are new people coming underneath, it doesn't mean that some of us that were there from like the early days, we still want to listen to it. Like,
Right.
yeah, my husband and I went to the Rock the Bells concert that was in Detroit. And I mean, just seeing those acts there was just phenomenal. That place was packed. Everybody was having a good time. And yeah, like, just because we older don't mean that we stop loving the music. So
Yes,
yeah,
super facts.
yeah,
Uh,
absolutely.
I'll put this too. Uh, just as an extra thought, is that the music today, I'm not, to be honest, I'm not the hugest on it. Not that it's bad or anything like that. My interest just kind of wanes with it. But the thing that I always keep in mind is that just because how the producers produce today, and I'm not talking about the process, but like the sound and the way the beats are and everything doesn't make old styles irrelevant. And I
Mm-hmm.
think, coming, if I had to talk to anybody who's like just getting into the game, if you were really listening to, Pac or something like that, whoever your inspiration is, and you wanted to make beats, but you feel a little discouraged because those aren't the typical styles that you hear these days, like I just want to encourage you to push that. Like, because one thing that I've learned is that regardless of what's trending now, there's always room for every style.
Yeah.
Um, and some of the most, the people that I listen to now, I guess you can kind of call them inspirations, but not necessarily. I just really like what they've been putting out. So there's actually two of them that are really big with me. Technically, there's three. Um, there is Sango. So this guy came out of Grand Rapids, Michigan, a while back, and he now resides in Seattle. His style, if you listen to his regular stuff, like his latest mixtape, I think it's called Great Lake Effect or something like that, which is catered to us Michiganders. You can definitely tell he's very much Midwest.
Mm.
But if you go back before that, or even that, I would even say the last 4 to 5 mixtapes or albums before that, producer, by the way, they're all that Brazilian like trap style. Um,
Mm.
and that is something like wow, like some of those beats just go like stupid hard to the point where it's like, man, I kind of want to try that. I don't want to bite, but I kind of want to try that just to get the experience of being able to come up with a style like that.
Yeah.
Um, and then there's another guy. He's overseas, amazing kid, 26 years old. He goes by the name Sam Gallatry. Um, if you get a chance, Kate Trinata, if any of you guys know who that is, Kate Trinata is doing a show in Chicago, I believe it's either September 4th or September 9th. If you get tickets to that, definitely keep your eyes and your ears open because Sam Gallatry is also supposed to be a part of that show.
Nice.
And this guy, his style, he has that nerdum in him too, but his style for his first couple his first couple albums and mixtapes were about uh, experiences of nature. And he would make those into beats and stuff like that. But now his flow has transitioned to an experimental, I call it English pop because it's not necessarily like, the American style.
Yeah.
But some of the stuff that he comes up with, the perfect song is like Assumptions. He's just started like using his voice on songs. And I'm like, bro, you should have been singing a long time ago. Like, you should have been making hooks a long time ago. But his style is it is of today, but it's not. You know what I mean? Like it has echoes of today's stuff, but you can really tell that he listened to a lot of like early 90s American style, like techno and stuff like that to really get that pump going that makes you like, yeah, okay, yeah, so I say all that to say, if you're a new producer or you're a producer just starting, or a producer coming back into the game, don't get discouraged about the hi-hat sequences. Don't get discouraged about what is the style called, the drill style. If you want to try that, it's perfectly great to experiment, but if that's not something that you can do, don't be discouraged. Stick to what you know and evolve your own style.
That was excellent advice. Thank you so much for sharing that. And since the clock is staring us in the face, I already know got to have you back again for part 2, because this has been great. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule. But I want to make sure that before we close this out, that everybody knows where they can follow you. You can check out your podcast and all the stuff that you got going.
Yeah, so you can follow me. I am on Instagram as Sandstorm McDowell. Make sure you go follow that. Twitter as well. I think the Deacon is in front of it, so it may be Deacon Sandstorm McDowell. Also, we have a podcast every Saturdays. If you want to see us nerd out, we talk anywhere from video games to animes to TV shows to movies to music. Like we talk about everything under the sun. It is called The Sandstorm Show, but it is under Sandstorm McDowell as well. McDowell for anybody who wants to get that spelling. And yeah, just follow us along. Just come along for the ride. We do giveaways, all that fun stuff. But it's really about the interaction. We love interacting with our fans and our subscribers and stuff. So yeah, come on through and check us out.
Thank you so much for joining me for Instrumental Intel. I am your host, music producer Chick with Beats, and I'm excited to say that I have in the virtual building with me today a man of many talents and also many names, but the one we're going to call him today is the Orchestra. How are you feeling?
I'm good. I'm glad to be here. Glad to be invited to the conversation.
Yeah. So if you could maybe give people a little bit of background into some of the stuff that you do, music related, and how you got started in music to begin with.
Okay, that's kind of a story. Let's see. Really, I've always enjoyed hip hop music, especially the percussion of hip hop music. Like when I was a kid, I always wanted to be a drummer, but my mom would let me be a drummer, so so I couldn't be a drummer. But when I got to undergrad at Michigan State, one of my classmates who was in the Charles Drew program with me, his younger brother was producing music. So I just basically kind of took it up on myself to figure it out with him. But he really didn't give me any training at all, to be honest. Because his mantra was like, if you're going to be dope, then I shouldn't have to tell you. I shouldn't have to tell you. Like, if you're going to be sweet, then you're going to be sweet.
Yeah.
So basically, he showed me, like what a quarter measure was, and like what a note was, and that was pretty much it. Like he showed me kind of the basis of like how to go through the instrumentation and write like this and that, but it was up to me to figure out like where to put the notes, where to put the rests, and all that. So that's what I did. That's how I got started. Basically, I just sat and basically taught myself how to figure it out, and he really was unconvinced, honestly, that I was going to be any good. So we would constantly we would have these beat battles where he would write like verses, like instrumentation, and then I would write the drums, and like he would also write his own drums. So it would be like basically like his drums versus mine on the same song, and we would play it for the suite mates, our roommates, and we would see like whose drums came out on top. Like what was better, basically like a Coke taste test. So I'll consistently be better than him on the drums. So so that's the only reason like he started taking me seriously, because like he had to, because people say my drums are better. And so that's how I ended up writing music, basically. Okay. I just started writing drums, and from there I started writing whole songs and doing everything, honestly. So I guess hip hop music would be a specialty, but I really enjoy writing for everything. There really isn't anything I don't like writing for. I guess I've never really sat down and tried to write a country song, but I don't think that it's impossible. I just find it like interesting just to put different sounds together, maybe making things that people aren't really expecting.
Okay, so basically you sat down, you had a point to prove, you proved it and just kept proving it.
Right, yeah. So then, eventually we would just have straight up beat battles where, like I would write something and like we would designate what instruments to use. So I would tell him like, all right, we're using horns, strings, oboe, and electric guitar or whatever. And so you would have to use those instruments to create something, and then like again, just send it out to people like, all right, what song is better, this one or this one?
Okay, so yeah, you mentioned that you don't have any problem venturing into the, or I should say out of the norm, if you will. And so I know country's kind of doing its little thing where it's getting a little more mainstream and whatnot. So is that something you can see yourself probably trying in the near future?
Yeah, I think so. I think definitely it's it's kind of coming back to black. Like it started out with black people, kind of coming back to black people now.
Yeah.
With a lot of the popular music that's out right now. So I definitely think that it's a time where you could experiment with more of those sounds from country music and integrate them into even other styles and genres, and people will probably connect with it because it's more like people are just getting used to those sounds and hearing those sounds and wanting more of those sounds because they're not used to them.
Yeah.
If you're not used to listening to that type of music,
Yeah. So I guess when you decide to try something that's kind of out of, the usual or something different from hip hop, are you able to stick to it? Because I know, like for myself personally, I might sit down and say, okay, I'm about to make a, pop song, but then somehow for me it just turns into something else. So how do you make sure that you stick with what you set out to do when you, start a beat to begin with?
Well, I guess it's not like I think me getting direction actually really helps me focus a lot, which is why I prefer to like work with artists directly on projects, because they give you their visions, you know what I mean, and then you can kind of fill it out and make it more vibrant, So like if I have someone saying, okay, I want a country sounding song, blah blah blah, and so then I could go in and say, okay, so what type of sound are you looking for? Like this type of sound, and you may go over some songs and make some notes on some songs and what type of sound that you're really interested in, and then that really will focus like what I'm gonna do. And I'll be very excited to do that part, like to go in and like really mess with it. So it's not, I don't find it hard at all to like focus and stick to like the plan. But I know what you mean though, because sometimes like you may be in there and you may hear a couple sounds and that you weren't counting on, and then it kind of goes off and goes sideways. But like when I'm working with somebody, that rarely happens. But when it's kind of free fall, we're just making something, like then of course it can happen. Like we may be sitting there and we may be trying to make something kind of gangster, and then all of a sudden it's kind of an R&B song, just because like maybe someone heard something on the drums and wanted to slow it down or whatever, and then it kind of turns into something different.
Yeah, okay. So, you mentioned that you had an affection for hip hop to begin with. Who were some of your early musical influences, even if it's outside of hip hop? But like as a kid, who were some of the people that just kind of grabbed your attention first?
Ooh, I mean, I guess like listening to music when I was younger, it was a lot of like Motown, because I'm from Detroit, so it was a lot of like OJs and Anita Baker and Temptations and Al Green, all that kind of stuff. Real soulful type music, which I learned to love. But I was, like I said, I was always really into the percussion. So like when I would hear drum solos and stuff like that, like that's what would really drive me to like want to listen more. So when hip hop music became really popular, like in the 80s, like I can remember like Will Smith "Summertime" and NWA "100 Miles and Running" and Too Short, "Freaky Tales," but just a lot of different stuff that you would hear. Like wow, like where did that come from?
Yeah.
Even like Pete Rock and why am I missing this name of this group? It's like we were just talking about this group the other day when we were here.
Yeah. I know you mentioned like Two Live Crew. Some other people, were probably too young to be listening to at the time, but
oh my gosh, yes. Uncle Luke and Two Live Crew. I used to love that. There's so much energy.
Yeah.
And, we never heard that type of bass before. That "It's Your Birthday." Oh my goodness, I used to love watching that on Fox. And then there's a lot of West Coast stuff too, like that the Dr. Dre "Let Me Ride."
Yeah.
I used to love that song. When I heard that, it was just nothing like it. Like the way those keys were put together, it was just so unique.
Yeah.
There's just a lot of pretty much anything that had a great beat to it. That's what I was into.
Okay.
That first Erykah Badu album, like when I was a little bit older, that was for sure super different. The way that the R&B was based over real kind of melodic hip hop beats.
Yeah. I feel like there was a lot of fusion back then, but I guess technically there still is today, but I still feel like there's a little more crossover. But at the time, sometimes the R&B songs felt more hip hop. Sometimes the hip hop songs felt a little more R&B. But like you could still tell there was a difference, but they still blended together so well. A little bit more than I'd say today. But
yeah, I feel like today, man, there's just a lot of content, and you really have to weed through it to find the good stuff. And I still put together mixtapes, so I'm actually in the process of doing one right now, and that is the key right now. Like I may download 350 songs, and go through and sift through and listen to all of them more than once, just sifting through, seeing like what actually works, and then kind of mentally kind of putting them where they would go in the mix, But you have to go through so many songs to like find like, so out of the 350, like I may end up with like 100, like that that are actually going to actually make the mix, you know, that fit, that work, that people will enjoy, you know. It's not just feel it. Like, you're trying to really get unique songs and try to put them together to where it makes sense to the listener. So, but yeah, right now there's just a lot of stuff, you know, and you may have like a great song here, great song there, good song here, good song there, and then, you know, all around that maybe 30 terrible songs.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And I was just reading an article recently that was talking about Spotify and basically how they're kind of conditioning people to just kind of sit back for more of the passive listening, and like making it a little bit harder to find like specific songs, and that eventually that could just change the way people consume music altogether. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think that would be a travesty, really, because not everybody can do music. And I think that it's so accessible right now, and people think that they can do it, really shouldn't be doing it, you know, because I'm not trying to shade anybody, but I'm just saying, like, not everybody can write good music, you know. So, and not everybody can sing, and not everybody can rap,
Right.
you know. So, it really is an art that you have to really work hard at, and in order to perfect it, even if you have talent, you still have to refine the talent and get to a place where it's usable and people understand and feel where you're coming from. Because it's really a feeling, and it's really part of the soul. And so when you're just doing it just to get some money, or because you think this is the easiest way to get to where you want to go, like, that's not why people make music.
Right.
You know, like, when you listen to some of these old jams, like, those people weren't just trying to make millions of dollars. They were trying to make you feel something.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so you have to get music that has feeling. You know, like, that's really where real artists go. You know, like, to the feel. I want this to feel a certain way. It's art, you know. And so when you're talking about how people consume over Spotify, really, they aren't giving the art a chance to breathe. You know, like, sometimes you have to look at something like you have a piece of art on the wall, and it may impress you a certain way, but then you come back and you look at it in a different light. Maybe it's, you know, at dawn or at dusk, and it looks a little bit different. You say, I kind of missed this, I missed that. It takes time to consume it properly. So you can't just listen and skip through every song and say, oh, well, this is garbage, or this is great. You have to kind of let it breathe a little bit. Like, open a bottle of red wine, you have to let it breathe a little bit. It's going to taste different over time if you let it breathe. So you have to give, especially when you know that it's a quality artist, you know, like, you have to let it breathe a little bit. Like, okay, I'm going to see what this is like. I'm going to take this in, and then I'm going to think about it, come back, and maybe we'll listen to it in different settings to see how we feel about it. You know, like, that's how music was meant to be taken in my opinion. Like, you don't just skip through. Oh, it was okay, I guess.
Right. As a matter of fact, just had this conversation with your cousin Sandstorm when we were at your place, actually, because it was a particular artist that I didn't necessarily dislike, but I wasn't really running to listen to her music. However, on the way, like on the highway, all of a sudden it felt different from sitting at my laptop, you know, trying to, you know, mix stuff and then maybe taking a little break to listen to music. It hit a lot different on the highway. It kind of got me hyped up and revved up. So you brought up a very valid point. A lot of times it depends on your mindset, the situation, and it can feel totally different.
Right. It really, I think the car is a great place to listen to music.
Yeah.
Especially like if you're trying to hear something for the first, second, third time, because you can actually focus on it pretty well. It's like we're kind of adapt to listening to music in the car. And a lot of times you're in there by yourself, so you can listen to it loud if you want to. You can have windows down if you want to.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you can really kind of get in a zone to just listening and paying attention to the music. So, and plus, usually the sound systems in cars nowadays are pretty good.
Yeah.
So you can get a good feel for how that's going to feel. And like, people will listen to certain things, of course, like when they're getting ready to go out, or they're getting ready to go to the gym, or they're getting ready to go to school or work. So it's like, okay, well, I know I'm gonna get hyped on this. I'm gonna put this on. This is gonna get me in the mood. And you had that just jumping in the car. So the car is a great place. I car test everything. Like mixtape, I'll car test the whole thing before I put it out. Any beats, like I'll car test the beat before it's done. Like it has to work in the car. It has to. And if it doesn't work in the car, you have to go back. You have to fix it.
Yeah. Because as a matter of fact, I was doing some social listening online, and people were talking about how some of these songs that are out now seem to be catering more to like your AirPods or whatever, because they think that that's how people are consuming it. Where you might not get the same feeling that you get when you listen to it in the car. So again, I think you raise another very valid point. Because I mean, like you said, that's really the best place to just kind of absorb it and actually like feel it.
Right. I mean, like here, at my house for sure, like, we have a great sound system because we do music. So like you'll be able to put it on and turn it up here. But I don't know how many people are really doing that now.
Yeah.
Like it may just be like you said, like headphones and AirPods. But I feel like if you write the song, you level it correctly for the car, it's gonna sound great in anything.
Exactly.
Like if it sounds good in the car, it's gonna sound good everywhere.
Yeah.
You don't even have to worry about it. But I think a lot of times we're going for big sound too, though. And I don't know like how many producers are really trying to go for like a quiet, quaint sound, which would, I guess, lend itself to more to like AirPods. When I'm thinking music, like you want some sound, you want depth, you want to feel that thing up,
right?
So that you really need some speakers for.
Yeah.
Like AirPods and headphones, like they'll work, but when you really want to hear it, you need some speakers.
Yeah, absolutely. So, all right, time's kind of running low a little bit, and I want to make sure that people get to know where they can follow you and keep up with you, what you got going on, hit you up if they want beats or a mixtape or whatever it is. Where can they follow you?
Where can they follow me? I guess they could probably follow me on Instagram. I think I'm the orchestra on Instagram. I'll have to check. Look. Let me look. I don't even remember. I am orchestra.
Yeah. And also, since most of the audience listening are artists in some way, shape, form, or fashion, any advice you have to anybody that's basically trying to navigate the industry right now, maybe, they're feeling a little discouraged because it seems like not necessarily true art is kind of being honored. Like you said, people just kind of want to breeze through stuff quickly. Any advice you have to offer for them to push through that?
Yeah, I think that it's important that everybody had their own style because there's only one you. So you have to develop your own style. Don't just copy somebody else and put your own stamp on it. Like develop what you do. Like go in there and figure out like what moves you and make your own arrangements. Like I do it this way because this is what I like. I put it this way because this and that and the third. Not just because Swizz Beatz did it, or Timbaland did it, or DJ Premier did it. Like figure out like what it is that you like to do. Like every real big producer, you can tell like who it is. Like you listen to it, like you can say, oh, okay, that's Kanye. Okay, that's 88 Keys. You know what I mean? Like that's High Tech. You know who it is just based on the sound.
Yeah.
So you have to develop your own sound so that people understand who you are.
That's wisdom right there. All right, did you find your socials?
Oh yeah. It's the orchestra. THA_ORKASTRA on Instagram.
All right, perfect. Well, I want to thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule, and I feel like we only scratched the surface, so I hope this is just part one, and I get to have you back soon for part two.
Yeah, that'd be fine.
All right, thank you so much.
No problem. Thank you.
All right, and that's a wrap for this episode of Instrumental Intel. I've been your host, music producer Chick with Beats, and I want to thank you for tuning in. Once again, as always, I appreciate the guests for coming on and sharing their insights, and I'd like to thank my home station, Grander Radio, out of Grand Rapids, Michigan. Make sure you come back next week. I got more goodness lined up for you, so till next time, you know where to find me. Tune in, tell a friend, and I'll see you then. Peace.